It was like driving into hell on a one-way ticket. No way to turn back, no hope of coming out unscathed. Though the Atlantic City Parkway was lined with orchards and green fields, we were sickened by sporadic billboards splashed with scantily clad girls advertising gambling and fun, fun, fun. Our exit came none too soon. The misty towers of tall casino towers remained shadows looming on the distant northeastern horizon as we got off the freeway on the western edge of Atlantic City. I hoped and prayed I could remain strong for my son. Could I stand to look at the perpetrator? I decided I didn't have to look at him. I didn't have to meet his eye. I was determined to think about Peter, not Shahid. I wanted to maintain my son's dignity as well as my own. I wanted my son, even in death, to be proud of his mother. In downtown Mays Landing, the county seat of Atlantic County, we met Jackie, the victim witness coordinator, who had been the kind, warm voice of many phone conversations. She had helped us make arrangements, and now she felt like a friend as she took us to meet the prosecutor. She turned away from the chunky, imposing Carnegie Library-style courthouse and took us instead across the street to a plain, one-story commercial building. Since it was Sunday, she unlocked the front door and led us down a narrow corridor to a chaotic workroom where Murray Tomsick, the prosecutor, was sitting in blue jeans and golf shirt at a table cluttered with papers. He was a mouse of a man, short, thin, nearly our age, nothing like what I expected from the formal, lawyerly voice we'd gotten to know on the phone. Was this the man who was going to confront the slime bags of Atlantic City casinos and strip clubs? Was this the man to establish blame and bring us justice? With few words, he greeted us, then pulled up a couple of folding chairs and began to talk about the case, step by step, in a formal, slightly aloof but polite tone of voice. He didn't show much emotion, and he didn't seem very compassionate about our loss. It was business to him, not his son. Murray ran us through a list of questions about Peter's childhood illnesses and athletic accidents and medical treatments. Did he have any surgeries? Was he ever sick? Was he ever injured in sports? Did he ever experience a head injury? He walked us through the list of witnesses he planned to call, the facts he'd present, the case he intended to build. We would not be expected to testify, he told us, because we weren't there. As he droned on, I felt detached from my son, the 24-year-old young man who was partying in Atlantic City. I felt like I was on TV, being led by the nose. Doesn't he want to know about Peter, the young man? From my backpack, I pulled out 2 framed photos of Peter and set them on the table in front of Murray. This is Peter, I said. This is who was beaten to death. He glanced at the photos but didn't say anything. Still, I persisted in my efforts to personalize the dead body, pulling out a T-shirt from the Middlebury College Memorial Hike and offering it to him. He seemed slightly embarrassed to take the shirt with Peter's name on it, but he asked about the big white bear on the back of the T-shirt whose arms were stretched around friends watching the sunset over the Green Mountains. I explained that Peter, proud of coming from the town of White Bear Lake, had adopted the polar bear as his personal mascot. After about an hour of questions when it was time to go, I packed up my framed photos, but I left him with an envelope of other photos, including the ones the groom had taken on the day Peter died, the ones of go-karts and the dinner at the Tun Tavern. I left wondering if he really knew enough about Peter to begin trial in 2 days. Didn't he need anything more from us? Jury selection took the next day. Since Murray told us it would be boring, we explored the area and tried to get comfortable. Everything felt wrong, foreign, seedy. It was all about gambling and entertainment. I never felt so far away from the lush green shores of White Bear Lake. I couldn't shrug a sense of Peter being mortified that we were here on his behalf, that we had to go through this. In my journal, I wrote, "Please don't cry, Peter. Nothing, nothing, nothing will diminish our love and pride in and for you. Nothing. Not the facts, not the bruised knuckles, not the blood alcohol level. You did nothing wrong, nothing of which we are ashamed. You always were and always will be everything any parent could want in a big, beautiful 24-year-old son." The next day, August 13th, 2002, Mark and I and our daughters, Anne, age 27, and Lynn, age 21, arrived at the courthouse before the jury was sworn in. Jackie led us to the front of the tiny room next to the railing behind the prosecutor. Mark and I sat with the girls between us, Jackie a seat away, the girls' closest friends in a row behind them. Our side of the courtroom soon filled with friends from Minnesota. Peter's best friend and eyewitness, Peter Steinberg, his parents, and several Middlebury friends. I gave a laminated photo of Peter to everyone who came to support us. While we listened to gruesome details about a dead body, I wanted us to remember a living, loving Peter Westra. I wore a tiny silver-framed photo pin on my lapel until Jackie told me it wasn't a good idea. She said it might cause a mistrial. We listened as through a fog to the prosecutor lay out his case, telling the court over and over and again in so many ways about this group of young Middlebury classmates who had come together for a bachelor party weekend and how tragically it had concluded. Chris, the best man, was the first witness to be called. He said they had decided to meet in a tourist town none of them had ever been to before because it was convenient and because they wanted to be together and have fun. It was centrally located, Chris said so softly we could hardly hear him. The guys were coming from Philadelphia, D.C., Boston, Florida, New York, and London. It was close to a major airport and offered the activities and a beach we thought we'd enjoy. He looked so clean-cut, so young. Did you come for the gambling? Murray asked. No, Chris said. We didn't come for the gambling. Brad, the groom, took the stand. He looked scared. Had you ever been to Atlantic City before that weekend? Murray asked. No, Brad replied. What'd you think? Murray asked. We were a little surprised by the place. There was a lot of hawking on the boardwalk. It was a little sleazier than we expected. In my journal, the innocence of these guys, innocence stripped away in a moment. Weekend tours, out of their element, uncomfortable in a sleazy environment, just wanting to enjoy each other's company. How impossible to believe that one of them, someone just like them, good-natured, affable Peter Westra, had been killed in a lark gone horribly awry.